The development of S.T.A.L.K.E.R is something really fascinating to me. From the early builds of S.T.A.L.K.E.R back when it was still named Oblivion Lost and was Quake-ish style shooter on concept, to the cut content for Shadow of Chernobyl and Clear Sky. There are a few mods that try to return S.T.A.L.K.E.R to its earlier builds, those being Oblivion Lost Remake and Lost Alpha, both in a different way. Oblivion Lost Remake tries to replicate the original idea as close as possible to the leaked design documents from the early 2000s, while Lost Alpha brings some aspects from the early builds and takes creative liberties to create a story around the old concepts being mostly original. Lost Alpha is considered to be significantly weaker when compared to Oblivion Lost, often called a walking simulator or a cheap fanfic by the community, but I'm here to check out if the mod holds up on its own as an experience, and I'll look into every detail. As is for me, I like to take a look at the visuals first. The mod is quite good looking and really immersive. You may leave now. The atmosphere in the mod is really good. The zone feels dark and depressing, crushing at times with intense fogs and rain, yet it's got a sunny and colorful side as well, having a nice contrast between the zone's deadly nature and the miracles it hides within, just the way I enjoy it. But I must say that I had to tinker a lot with the settings to get something that is bearable to look at and run smoothly. When it comes to weapons in this mod, all of the original guns are here, overhauled with STCOP models and animations that are kind of overused in my opinion, but it's fine, it works here. There are also some new guns, as well as guns that were cut from the early builds of Shadow of Chernobyl, and some that are just bugged. I'd say the arsenal fits the universe without adding too many useless guns, and that's it. It's just guns. If you point at him, you click, he fucking dies, gets dead cancer. Epic. The gunplay itself being much more interesting compared to the weapons, it feels kind of similar to Clear Sky, except you can hit things, and when you hit things, they die from it. Surprise! The gunplay is also tied to skills I'll talk about later on. The mod features a lot of cut locations as well as old versions of the vanilla maps. My approach with talking about maps will now be following a formula. First I'll briefly mention the maps that are present but have no change or too little change for it to matter, then I talk about the maps that are in but changed, be it alpha version or brand new, then in the end I'll talk about the new maps. Unchanged yet present are Agroprom, which has never seen a single change since its first inclusion back in the alphas, Army Warehouses, which is slightly bigger but the same, and of course the TNPP, which I have yet to see changed once. The first of the changed maps is the build version of Cordon. It's significantly bigger, featuring underground network of tunnels and a factory instead of the vehicle park. The iconic broken bridge is still there, but slightly different. Pretty much the entire map is different yet the same, with just a lot more detail. The garbage is way different compared to what we got. Instead of 3 big piles, it has a ton of random trash scattered everywhere. There is also an underground network under the hangar, and a road going through the not so middle. The map kind of is just a more boring version of Cordon. Road, bridge, trash, checkpoint. Dark Valley has one more building, but it's pretty much the same. More interestingly, the bar and wild territory are connected into one map. As it was originally planned, wild territory is the same, but the bar has been ruined. The main entrance is replaced by the arena, which didn't touch at all, and now you have to go all around to get to the bar. It's like they calculated the most amount of walking possible, and it's annoying because the bar is my go-to place for a base. Yantar is entirely different, with many abandoned buildings and military installations scattered around, 2 villages as well with no sign of laboratory anywhere. Instead, a network of underground tunnels is present again. I'm seeing a pattern. But how is it interesting to look at these cut locations and think of the purpose they fulfilled? The Red Forest Radar area is a simplified early build model. Instead of a forest, there is piles of garbage, and there are more areas connected to it. Other than that, it's the same, but boringer. The biggest change being that the Scorcher is not located where it normally is. Instead, it's located in this little corner. Pripyat is exactly the same, except that the main road leads directly to the monolith base. In one of the earlier builds of S.T.A.L.K.E.R, a building was added here to fix the constantly dropping frames. Now, let's finally check out some of the new locations. Well, Darkscape. Everyone knows this place at this point, and everyone is bored out of their mind from it. Good concept, but in execution there is nothing to do. This map was originally supposed to be a vehicle chase section where the helicopter chases the player through the level, and it was supposed to be a one and only time you'll go through it. The most iconic part of this map is the collapsed bridge, and the underground mines, in some modes only, and the Greek coastline next to it. Next interesting one is the Rostock factory, which is modeled after the real life Rostock factory where the GSC offices were located and even holds some secrets in the earlier builds. The map is quite atmospheric, but it doesn't serve much purpose other than a few side quests. Next up is the construction site, which is actually the original design of Dark Valley before it was remade, featuring a water treatment plant and a construction site. Duh! With an abandoned base. It was originally supposed to house 2 rivaling bandit factions, but that never happened. Instead, in this game it serves as a pass-through and side quest location. The forest is a long one, most likely another vehicle-focused map, only featuring a few villages and an abandoned factory with a mine next to it, and an interesting anomalous formation that can protect you from emissions. The rest is grass which nobody here will touch. XD. The cut location of Dead City is present as well, being significantly bigger but rather boring. Just buildings with mutants all around and some mercs sprinkled in. A really sad implementation for what it could be, and you only have to come here once and never again. Next up is the alpha versions of the swamps. It has a big road splitting the wetlands leading towards the Tuzwa tunnel. Other than that, it's nothing too special, and I understand why they changed it to the Clear Sky version, as this one is significantly less enjoyable to cross. The almost last location is the North Road. It's a road. What else do you need? It's got a shit ton of mutants, so I'll need a car to showcase it. Now, if you look to the left, you're going to see a pointless swamp. There is also this tunnel as well. Well, as it seems, we got a hitchhiker. Well, I'll bring him along. Let's call him Janusz. Well, our friend Janusz fell down. Let's just quickly put him there. And for the final of our trip, I'll show you this cool hole. Okay, enough maps, I'm tired. Now let's check out the AI. Their behavior in the mod is really interesting and is also quite bipolar. Mutants will usually try to swarm the player at almost all times and sometimes retreat, but other than that, it's a standard AI line to the player. Most of them die quickly, but for some reason, boars just refuse to fucking die, even if you hit them 6 times in the head with the Slabvolver.
Yeah, we'll try one more time. We have physically removed not just the brain, but the soul as well, as far as I can tell. So
the human NPCs are a different story. One moment they will stalk the player or make an ambush from around the corner, and in another they will be spazzing out at the spot or simply hear an enemy across the map and mutants. A unique feature of this mod are skills, each with its own effect. Barter makes you an expert on shipping oil illegally to Yugoslavia, which makes traders charge you for less for their goods. Respect, my fellow criminal. Endurance makes you hit the gym and develop child levels of schizophrenia, so you may lift more. Sharpshooter makes you control your alcohol tremors, so you may actually shoot straight. And survival makes you learn some of the classic zone cuisine. The skills overall just make the game slower in the start. You feel vulnerable, you can't run and reload, making shots count more, and fighting boars to be fucking miserable. Just put all of your skills in endurance and sharpshooter, as the others are meaningless and all the cool gear you find is through quests anyway. Next up on my list is story. It's a story mode after all, right? That's the most intriguing part. If you wish to skip it, go ahead, but if you don't care or you played through it before, be my guest as I go through losing my shit in the alpha. As every classic mode, you are greeted by a scene of a dead truck traveling down a road, this time stylized. Lighting hits, truck suffers a minor inconvenience, and a man picks up the main character from the wreck. You wake up in a basement with no memories of what happened or who you are. The first thing you see is Sidorovic's greasy mug. He offers the usual help for help, as he may be able to help with piecing your mind together and finding the S.T.A.L.K.E.R guy. He names you Marked One due to the tattoo on your arm. Unfortunately, your PDA is broken and not all of the information is there. Sidorovic's first task is simple, an artifact hunt. Get there, bring it back. The next mission is for Marked One to find some informants of Sidorovic. Same as the original game, talk to Wolf, talk to Petrucha, ruin some deals between the bandits and the mercs, realize the PM sucks and recover their contact's gear. The next trip is to find and help Fox, who was captured by stalkers from the group scene. Upon arrival, they're not very friendly, but a deal is struck between them and Sidor. Information on the underground WAPs for the life of Fox. Fair enough. After rescuing Fox, Marked One calls Scene ugly in front of them, smartass. And Fox now becomes a mechanic in the Rookie Village. After a yapping session with Sidorovic, Marked One heads north towards the garbage to meet up with Seri, who knows something about S.T.A.L.K.E.R. The first thing that Marked One spots there is a friendly stalker by the name of Bess. He warns him of a sniper on a bridge and suggests that Marked One murks him one, which is quite easy with the help of a rusty AK. Up ahead, Marked Uno meets a stalker by the name of Yurik, who calls for help with an assault on the bandit base in the hangar. And so an ambush is set ablaze, with Seri's group attacking from one side and decimating the bandits. Seri then tells Marked One that he doesn't directly know S.T.A.L.K.E.R, but a friend of his dug up his stash in Agroprom and there could be info there. So Marked One heads right through to Agroprom. There, Mo's group is attacked by the military and Marked One must fight his way through to him. After rescuing Mo, Marked One has a brief talk with him. S.T.A.L.K.E.R stash is located somewhere in the vast underground network of tunnels and Markiplier One must now head right down to find it. The network is huge, featuring both underground layouts and some new ones. Marked One finds a key to the stash and makes his way through a few mutants and then finds the stash itself. In the stash, Marked One finds a book that belongs to S.T.A.L.K.E.R, a document and a flash drive in a nearby vent, and then makes his way out. So far the story is almost the same, but instead of directly having to raid the institute, Marked One is contacted by Barkeep to help a military stalker named Ratkacher. He shares that he was sent to the undergrounds and everyone except him was killed by a bloodsucker. Now the army believes he is the killer but releases information on the mutant somewhere in the base, and with that information he can clean his name. Marked One's mission is to find it. so I went in at night and it went as well as you can imagine.
S.T.A.L.K.E.R!
At this point the skies were ripping open, the graphical settings are quite something. With Ratcatcher free, I headed to the bar. Upon arriving at the duty checkpoint, they once again showed everyone how much they care about protecting the innocent. After their exceptionally useful intervention, I went right through to the bar. It's gotta be more peaceful there, right? Mark 1 meets up with Barkeep. He mentions that the monoliths seem to have made some kind of alliance with the bandits, with Sid wishing to find a way north beyond the Scorches. This is the perfect place to begin looking for clues. According to Petrenko, there is a lab under the monolith base named X18. It is currently unopened and Mark 1's job is to try to get in using a disguise. In the Dark Valley, Mark 1 meets with Barkeep's stalkers. He learns that there is an insider within the monolith who help with finding information. But first he must acquire a password from the bandit so he may get inside the complex. With a disguise I walked right in and found a drunk bandit, who spews out that the password is Pizdeț. With the password I went right to the monolithians and they didn't suspect a thing. The monolith informant shares that in the office of his leader is a journal with decrypted documents. He rings up his boss and distracts him so Mark 1 may sneak in and steal the documents. But then the army attacks the base and Mark 1 must find a vehicle and have an escape. After reaching the mines, Mark 1 is safe at last, but forced to find another way around. He gets captured by Sin and brought to their leader Veles. He shares their story. They were political prisoners that were subjected to the experiments inside of the X labs, becoming grotesque and disfigured. Their strive is to find a cure for their condition with the help of the machinery and information from the labs. They send Mark 1 on a mission to find important documents from the bandits and from X18 lab. Of course, this is entirely optional and you can steal your things back and leave, but I'll choose to include it in the main story as I think a major faction interaction such as this one should be part of the main line. Upon exiting the cave, Sidrovich sends a message that the ecologists in Yantar are looking for someone to help with a problem, and perhaps they could fix the PDA problem in return. But we don't care about that because car. After that mess, Mark 1 ends up in Lab X18, where shit is tripping, hallucinations seem to be haunting him, and even visions of the past, of scientists experimenting on sinners, turning them into bloodsuckers, and early teleportation developments that went wrong. The lab itself is quite immersive. I don't think that I've ever felt more sucked in a mod than this exact part here, with weird things happening all around. For Sin you must steal data from a computer, which is interactive and has Tetris on it. After exiting the lab, Mark 1 finds another car and heads back towards the mines. Back in the mines, Mark 1 hands over the data and is free to leave. Upon arriving at Yantar, Mark 1 makes his way to the scientists. He meets up with Professor Shakarov, who has made a deal with the mercenaries and needs Mark 1 to pick up the package from them. Mark 1 questions the professor about documents which Petrenko requests, and the scientists offer help. Across all the facilities and buildings are a lot of electronics that may prove useful to the science team, and Mark 1's job is simple, for him to go on an expedition and retrieve them in exchange for the documents. The team is made up of 2 scientists and a stalker. The gang moves out together and marches through multiple anomalous locations retrieving electronics and documents and even seeing some weird things. Eventually the last target is underground, and Mark 1 will be sent there alone, down an elevator shaft. Down in the tunnels, it is silent, with only zombies inside. A small room with a huge metal door in front and an endless tunnel to the right. The tunnel leading right to all the goodies that the eggheads need, but what about the huge metal door? Behind it, a bloodsucker lair. Luckily I got bugged out of reach, but what follows right after is far worse than a bloodsucker lair. Yeah, that sucked. There is what appears to be a brain in a jar, and it is active. Quite possibly one of the most unpleasant things I had to experience in any S.T.A.L.K.E.R mod. I find things like this so nasty. Upon returning to the scientist, Mark 1 starts losing his shit. Spilling the beans about the brain, Shakarov gives Mark 1 a tool that can protect from the centimeters, but he must first calibrate it by getting near the brain. Upon returning to the brain, Mark 1 approaches the machine and takes out the device. and now you have to sit there for 2 minutes and 17 seconds. Yeah, and rewarding resets the timer, mouse controllers and phantoms attack you. Okay, this part kinda sucks. Oh, well. Yeah, it was a bit of a cheap way to Psy attack you again, but anyway, let's move on. With the side device calibrated, Mark 1 can now visit Dead City and grab Shakarov's package from the mercs. How hard can it be? You go right up to the big boss and he...
Охрана, схватить его! Ляпкий стрелок! Вернулся, сволочь!
Upon waking up, Mark 1 is met by an old man and has an exchange with him, which goes something like this. Wow man, you're alive! So cool, so epic! You're one of the men in S.T.A.L.K.E.R's group. Oh bro, you don't remember anything! Ghost, Fang, Guide, and me! Are you saying that I am S.T.A.L.K.E.R? Yes, but now is not the time for thinking. Fuck off, cunts! Returning to Shakarov, he promises to be a good old man and not to work with mercs again, and gets to work on fixing your PDA, but he'll need some more parts and a crystal artifact. Mark 1 then ventures towards the swamps, but on his way to meet with the doctor, a helicopter patrol attacks him. Seemingly sneaking through the reeds not working, there was nothing else left but violence. After that, S.T.A.L.K.E.R 1 meets up with Doc, where his head explodes for no reason at all. I don't fucking know anymore. Upon waking up, Doctor tells S.T.A.L.K.E.R that Ghost knows where the crystal artifact can be found. He is currently in a hideout in the army warehouses. Ghost tells S.T.A.L.K.E.R of a nasty bunch of mercs that have the crystal, and that another stalker from Freedom will help S.T.A.L.K.E.R to steal it. So he and S.T.A.L.K.E.R meet up and arrange a plan.
Follow me and keep low. We've got a lookout in the tower. Take him out quietly. Good night. 4 tangos inside. Don't even think about it. Bugger! Our cover's blown! We've been spotted! Take him out! Take him out! That was close. We won't get very far trying to shoot our way out of every situation. Move up. Bollocks! My legs! Good night, you bastard.
With Mad Dog dead and the crystal retrieved, S.T.A.L.K.E.R gets his PDA fixed. It was time to return to the bar. Oh, for fuck's sake. Once the situation is cleared, S.T.A.L.K.E.R heads north to the new bar, located in another basement with pool tables. But there's something weird happening. Earthquakes seemingly hitting this place time and time again with no clear explanation. Very weird. Well, the next step is disabling the brain scorcher. Through Voronin's men, S.T.A.L.K.E.R learns of a secondary emitter in Lab X-18 that must be deactivated before the scorcher, so now he has to find a reliable Psy helmet. Shakarov gives S.T.A.L.K.E.R only a shitty prototype with the proper helmet lost somewhere in the concrete factory way up north. S.T.A.L.K.E.R is left with no choice but to get there. On his way there, S.T.A.L.K.E.R had to pass through the scorcher in Red Forest, with the monolith seemingly not hostile on first sight. Upon arriving in the North Hills, S.T.A.L.K.E.R is surprised by an animation, and with nowhere to hide, he is hit by it for the gazillionth time. He wakes up in a lab. Apparently the scientists in the concrete factory managed to find him, with the head scientist Didi informing S.T.A.L.K.E.R that the calibrated helmet is lost somewhere in an underground facility near the North Hills Dam. With the main entrance to the dam being blocked, S.T.A.L.K.E.R is forced to find another way around. In the dam lab, S.T.A.L.K.E.R finds the rules and rows of tunnels, with the scientist dead at the very end. And now with the acquired helmet, S.T.A.L.K.E.R can enter the Lab X-18.
Garden Streaman, we have been expecting you.
Ah, my
Brain!
Shut the fuck up.
After Gordon and his team fried everyone in the lab, it's your job to clean up now. Once out, it was time to disable the Scorcher, so I stole a car and headed towards the Radar Forest. Inside the Scorcher, more hallucinations of scientists appear. blabbering something about the experiments, almost like the zone recorded their final moments and repeats them on forever. With the task of reaching the final room, S.T.A.L.K.E.R must first disable the security before dealing with the Scorcher itself. That was quite a minimal resistance if you ask me. Anyway, after that, S.T.A.L.K.E.R is then tasked by Voronin with exploring another lab, X7, where the earthquakes are believed to originate from, and upon entering he sees a hologram.
You! What? Oh my god, you look like me. What the hell?
I'm a cybernetic security system. Designate yourself.
I'm just a stalker. I need to go through here to the main control room.
Stay away from this area, Stalker. You do not have security clearance. You can't come in. This is your first and final warning.
But I need to.
Stay right here.
With no options other than running, S.T.A.L.K.E.R sprints across the hallways with the hologram hot on his heels. Through water and wall ceilings, S.T.A.L.K.E.R eventually reaches something familiar in this maze of corridors.
Hey, don't touch it.
After climbing out of that stinker, S.T.A.L.K.E.R gets a message by Fang to meet up in the hideout. Fang awaits with his 6 shades and gives a brief recap on what happened before S.T.A.L.K.E.R lost his memories. Apparently they were at the generators before being split up and S.T.A.L.K.E.R going missing. He also shares that he is finalizing his design of a decoder that should be able to open the lab under the generators. S.T.A.L.K.E.R heads out to find Ghost in Pripyat and receives a message to go through the undergrounds under the city as the main road is blocked. And I must say it's quite a mayhem there. Once out, S.T.A.L.K.E.R must make his way through a bunch of monolith soldiers and head over to the hotel. Ghost says that before taking down the generators they must first acquire the override codes from the sarcophagus itself. Making his way through the monolith patrols, eventually he ends up in the CMPP. A task to help the military appears, and I just took it. With Lieutenant Dudaev in charge, S.T.A.L.K.E.R and the military will try to break through.
Open the gates.
Nah. Fighting through more munitions and a huge wave of mutants, eventually we reach the military commander and begin the next stage of the operation.
Look out for those 18 motherfuckers!
And with the station secured, it was time to get in. The place was mostly empty, with just zombies wandering. I wouldn't exactly call that a threat by any means. Well, there is no power and S.T.A.L.K.E.R must restore it. By beating up a bunch of people of small stature and acquiring a battery. Now it was time to plop it in the control room.
Okay guys, proceed with the plan. You heard the order. Performing the last check. Is your committee really sure?
Of course. Continue, please. Loading element 115.
Now.
What is that?
It's sabotage. It's you, right? You.
S.T.A.L.K.E.R leaves the station with the override keys and meets up with Ghost in the generators. It is now or never. They must find the lab and destroy the generators.
Wait a second. I think we have a problem here. The secret lab is heavily guarded.
Well, the only thing left now, Lab X2. S.T.A.L.K.E.R descends. Upon arriving, S.T.A.L.K.E.R finds a power switch, but it needs fuel, so he finds fuel. Easy. S.T.A.L.K.E.R then breaches his way into the depths of the laboratory, his quest to deactivate the X-ray engine coming ever closer, as reality starts to warp around him and his frames drop. Wandering through the madness of this laboratory, seeing the scientists before him lose their shit, I actually have no idea what's going on anymore. Anyway, you reach the final room, Epic Green Man gives you the ending speech from Shadow of Chernobyl, and S.T.A.L.K.E.R denies disabling the extra engine, as he has embraced the slapjack nature of his existence, and he must now destroy the generators that fuel Reddit to save humanity from themselves. With the generators deactivated, S.T.A.L.K.E.R goes back to Ghost and they have an epic happy ending. Yay! The story is alright, the beginning is literally Shadow of Chernobyl, then at some point it uses Oblivion Lost concepts, and past that it's mostly original by the looks of it. I can see why people believe this mod is a fanfic, as you literally play as S.T.A.L.K.E.R with his merry men and the good guys just win easily. But not every story has to be a deep philosophical take on the meaning of existence. Even a normal story is as fanfic as it gets. You literally get to be S.T.A.L.K.E.'s sidekick and save the world like 3 times. By itself, Lost Alpha's story is not bad at all. It does a lot of things right, and a lot of things could be better. But it's not as bad as some people make it out to be. Lost Alpha's side quests were kind of weak though, with all of them being glorified fetch quests. At least the Duty one had animations, but Duty is also the favorite faction in this mod. Freedom gets absolutely zero screen time in the story, and visiting them is entirely optional. Now let's complain about this mod. The most obvious complaint would be the crashes. I have never experienced this many crashes in any other mod. You literally cannot quit the game normally without crashing it so hard. You have to do that thing where you start restarting your PC, then slam your escape key and pray it closes half of your apps. The mod also suffers with poor performance. Please turn off RAM texturing or whatever it's called, because it just eats half of your FPS for no gain. Lost Alpha is also a bitch to record. I had to replay half of the game just because my footage ended up like this.
Твой путь завершается. Иди ко мне.
Lesser ones would be the visual bugs, broken cutscenes, and bores. Despite everything, my overall opinion on the mod is positive. I had far more enjoyable moments than bad ones, and I do believe that this is a really fun and a solid experience. The atmosphere is just really good, as it is leaning more on the immersive style of experiences more than anything else. So if you want something slower that sucks you in, this is the mod for you. If you also enjoy the old concepts of S.T.A.L.K.E.R, you might like this. We'll see in the future how it compares to Oblivion Lost. For now, that's how I could think of for Lost Alpha. Tune in next time as I take a look at Winds of Time. I'm afraid it could take even longer, so see you in the future, funny people in my computer.